Welcome to TIC, Thriving in College. My name is Manjari Gupta, and I'm the founder and CEO of Axios Tutoring. At Axios, we specialize in guiding students to achieving their college dreams through personalized college advising, test preparation, and tutoring. The goal of TIC is to bring student voices to the forefront of sharing their journeys as they transition from high school to college, eventually to their careers. Today, I am excited to introduce Rhea. A few years ago, we worked with her on ACT preparation, and since then, she has graduated with a degree in pharmacy and successfully launched a career as a pharmacist. I remember her determination and single minded focus even back then, qualities she carried through her PCAT or Pharmacy College Admissions Test and into her career. We'll dig into that journey in just a moment. A quick note: Rhea is close to my family. I love her. My daughter and her are great friends, but that's not the main reason she's here today. I wanted Rhea to share her experience working as a pharmacist and to give some insight into studying pharmacy. Few high school students consider this path, but it's an outstanding STEM career, especially for those interested in medicine and healthcare. Pharmacy is not only rewarding, but also promising, with an expected growth rate of 5% over the next decade and a median salary of $136,000, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics. With that, I bring to you Rhea. Hi, Rhea.
Hello, thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be
Finally.
here. Thank you.
Early morning, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Um, so I want to start with first things first, which is looking back. What initially sparked your interest in pursuing a career in pharmacy?
Yeah, so it's funny. I don't have, I guess, like a moment where I was like, yes, pharmacy is what I'm interested in. It was kind of a long path to it. So throughout high school, throughout even middle school, I was interested in healthcare. I
Hmm.
volunteered at hospitals. I did programs at hospitals where I got to see different sections of the hospital. I loved science. I loved chemistry. I liked biology. So I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but
Yeah.
I struggle with blood. I struggle with gore. So I knew I couldn't be a doctor. I couldn't be
Huh.
a nurse. And it
Yeah.
left me kind of like, I don't really know what other options there are, just because I think growing up, you do hear, right? Like those are your primary paths in healthcare. Everyone's like, you'll be
Yep.
a doctor, you'll be a nurse. And you don't really hear about all the other avenues, really.
No, no.
So I actually had, I think it was a family friend who was like, have you ever thought about pharmacy? And I was like, no, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like most people, you think of a pharmacist and you just think of the guy at CVS who is always late giving you your medication, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's our
that's
closest encounter to seeing a pharmacy in our daily life.
exactly like you don't really know anything that they're doing. So, but I was interested and I actually went to some pharmacists in Oakland. I went to the University of Pittsburgh and
Okay.
I shadowed a couple pharmacists. So I shadowed a pharmacist at Heber's Pharmacy, which is a compounding pharmacy. And then I also
Uh-huh.
shadowed a pharmacist at AHN at their inpatient pharmacy. And just through talking to them, I could see that pharmacy had so much value. They had such close relationships with the patients they served. There were opportunities outside of your typical retail pharmacy. And so I kind of said that I think this would be a really good path for me. And that's how I got into it.
And this was while you were at Pitt or while you were
It
in high
was,
school?
it was my freshman year of Pitt. Yep.
Okay. So you got into college having a sense of, I want to do something in healthcare, but not quite sure where
Exactly.
that's going to take you?
Exactly. Yeah. I think I applied to Pitt as a biology major just because I knew that was pretty translatable towards
Yes.
the healthcare major.
Uh-huh.
And I said I'll kind of figure it out from there.
All right. Well, you introduced something there where, again, we hear about it, but not a whole lot, which is compounding pharmacy,
Yes.
right? So you have your regular pharmacies and compounding pharmacies. Can you just briefly talk about what that is?
Yeah, yeah. So compounding pharmacies are really unique because they're able to serve patients who can't take maybe typical pills that you would get at the pharmacy. So if you
Mm.
need a dosage that's abnormal that a manufacturer doesn't make, they can
Mm-hmm.
make that for you. If you're older, maybe, and you can't swallow pills anymore, they can
Mm.
create a liquid for you by crushing tablets. They
Mm.
serve our pets, right? So any
Oh.
medication you need for a pet, they'll flavor it like with chicken or peanut butter, and they'll make it a suspension so that
Huh.
you can give it to your animals too. So they have a lot of purpose for that, and they're able to help patients who can't always take your typical medications that are manufactured.
Okay, so a very niche area
Yeah,
within how the pharmacies operate. All
yeah,
right.
definitely.
So as far as getting ready to be a pharmacist, can you talk us? So this here you are in your first year of college. You get a sense of pharmacy is can be a good place for you. Where
Yeah.
do you go from there? What happens after that?
Yeah. So the nice thing about pharmacy is they offer an opportunity to get all of your prerequisites done in your first 2 years of college.
Hmm.
And then you can go directly into pharmacy school your third year, essentially being in school for a total of 6 years, which is a really nice streamlined process. So as soon as I figured out I wanted to be pharmacy, I talked to my advisor. I figured out exactly what my prerequisites were for pre-pharmacy,
Mm-hmm.
and I fulfilled all of those throughout school. The other thing that you need to go into pharmacy is you have to take a PCAT. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's an MCAT for pharmacy.
Oh boy. I remember seeing you through that time. There were these really huge fat books,
Yeah.
and you burnt the midnight hours working through
Oh,
them.
yep.
Yeah.
So it's a
S-
lot. Yeah, it's a lot of topics to cover. I will say it's a lot of base actual sciences. So it's very much like biology, chemistry, um, some math. So that's
Okay.
really the focus of the PCAT, to make sure that you've kind of mastered those topics and those subjects before you enter pharmacy school.
So
Um,
you graduated after 6 years with a doctorate, not just a master's, but a
Correct.
doctorate
A
degree.
doctorate of pharmacy.
So 6 years, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, something like
Oh,
that.
yep, exactly. So they do technically award you a bachelor's at your fourth year, and then you
Uh-huh.
get your doctorate at your last year.
That is a really super fast track.
It is.
If it wasn't you, if it weren't for you, what would be an alternate path to a D.Pharm look like?
Yeah.
How many years are we talking about?
So we had people in my graduating class who actually had done like a 4 year undergraduate degree. So they had their
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's in a variety. I mean, we had people who had a bachelor's in arts and they majored in history, right? Like we had a lot of different people. And
Hmm.
so you could do that and then go into pharmacy school after those 4 years and do an
Yeah.
year program.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then on the other side, if you knew you wanted to do pharmacy right out of high school, you could actually apply, at least to Pitt, for a conditional acceptance, which
Huh.
basically means you apply right to the pharmacy school,
Yeah.
and they will conditionally accept you if you have like the GPA, the grades that they want. And as long as you maintain a certain GPA and score average on the PCAT, you are directly admitted into the pharmacy school after two
So you
years.
still have to take a PCAT, even though it's
You
okay.
you
So
just
you
have to get your score does not have to be outstanding. I think it was a 70 or 75 percentile.
okay.
So it was more like you didn't have to worry about getting like a 93 percentile or anything like that. So
Okay, that's good to know. So, what parts of your job you find most rewarding and challenging?
yeah, so my current job, I work for CVS Specialty,
Okay.
and I'm a pharmacist on the pulmonary hypertension team.
Huh.
And pulmonary hypertension, it is a disease where basically the patient's blood vessels are very constricted. So they have trouble getting oxygen throughout their body. So these patients are very sick. They're very short of breath. They can't
Mm,
perform daily activities very easily. They're on oxygen a lot of the time.
mm,
So it with this patient population, these patients really value their medication. I mean,
mm,
it is genuinely life-saving for them to be on their medication. So it is
mm.
really rewarding to work with these patients, making sure that their medications are dosed appropriately, that
Yeah.
they're receiving it. If they're running out of medication, that I am working with them to make sure that we
They
are
get
getting
it.
it
They
to
get the
them.
refills.
Exactly. So it is very rewarding with my patients, and they do have a lot of appreciation for us, which is
Oh.
always a really nice thing to feel from them.
And what are the not so good parts? Paperwork?
Um, I would say the not so good parts are, I mean, you always have your cranky people, right? I
Of
mean,
course.
there's always, but it's important. I think I've learned through time that a lot of these people, they're cranky because they don't feel well, right? So if they're mad and they're taking it out on you,
Uh-huh.
they're not mad at you, right? Like they're in a difficult situation and they're just frustrated, whatever situation they're in and whatever's going on. So just to keep that in mind and accept it and just kind of let them berate you a little and be like, all right, so this is the solution we're going to give you now. So that's
Rhea,
tough,
that
but
is so much of nice empathy coming from not a caretaker, but a provider, right? I love that.
yeah.
I
No, and
love,
it's important because it's easy to get caught up in that and be like, I
yeah.
had all these, especially I worked in retail previously.
Uh-huh.
I worked in Rite Aid as a staff pharmacist, and I worked at the peak of COVID where I think people were their least friendly selves.
Yes, yes.
And I
I
had
rem
to remind
yeah.
myself of that.
I know. I remember after you became the pharmacist, you then I was at the pharmacy once, and I saw the main pharmacist at the in the center of the bay
Yeah,
working nonstop, and I almost imagined you to be there. So that's really tough, long hours,
it was.
receiving on both ends, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I would say that was probably my toughest time in pharmacy was working for Rite Aid during the peak of COVID and
Yeah.
the vaccination efforts and the testing. It
Yes.
was
Yes.
very difficult.
Yes, the pandemic certainly was not easy on all of the healthcare providers. It was one
Absolutely.
of the brutal times that all of you in the healthcare fields lived through. All
Yeah.
right. There are licensing requirements, right, to being
Yes.
a pharmacist?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So you renew your license, you have to study for it, or is it a pretty simple thing as to send in the money and the license is renewed?
Exactly. So you first, when you graduate, you take your boards, and that is
Mm-hmm.
your clinical licensing exam. And then in order to work in whatever state you want to be licensed in, you take a law exam for that state. And then every 2 years, you get you have to renew your license and
Mm-hmm.
you do continuing education credits. So
Okay.
essentially, you are keeping up with any new information. They have different courses that you're taking throughout those 2 years, and they make sure that you have the correct number of credits. I can't remember what it is, but
Yeah.
they make sure you're just up to date on immunizing. Anything new that's, during COVID, that was kind of a big focus. And so you do that, and it's every 2 years, but it's not bad at all.
Okay, so I'll take you a little back into time to your high school life.
Okay.
And so here you are in high school, not at least here you are a pharmacist. When you look back into the high school life and you say, all right, for somebody looking at pharmacy, these are the aspects that if you are good at pharmacy might be a good option for you. What would those be?
Yeah, so I think I would say pharmacy is a lot of chemistry, right?
Mm-hmm,
Chemistry is a big foundation to pharmacy. And then
mm-hmm.
math is a big topic, right? Because you're constantly calculating doses and
Yeah,
titration. So those are probably the major subjects. But I think
not biology as much.
it is important. But I think that if I had to choose a science, I would say chemistry is a bigger
Yeah,
one.
okay.
Um, but biology is important, right? You need to know like how the anatomy works, to know how the medication's working in the body and
Mm-hmm.
understanding the side effects. But another thing I would say that's important that people kind of forget about is your people skills,
Huh.
because you are dealing with patients every
Yes.
day, and it's
Yes.
important that you are developing those people skills and knowing how to interact professionally with others. And that was a huge focus in pharmacy school. We did a lot of, um, we would work with standardized patients, which were basically actors who were
Yeah.
patients, and we would talk to them and like work on like how we explain things to them or how we conduct ourselves with them. So I would say those are kind of the
The
things.
bedside manners, right? I hear that is a
Exactly.
huge thing in
Huge.
medicine and
And it
healthcare.
is something you don't think about always when you're
Yeah.
going into healthcare, because you're a lot of people who go into healthcare are so book heavy. They're very, reading and learning, and they forget that you have to also make sure your personality is good for patients and you can hold conversations and talk to them and explain things to them.
That's wonderful. Well, we'll lighten up a conversation. There's a surprise element that I did not talk to you about,
Okay.
which is a rapid fire section. So don't give a lot of thought. These are easy questions. There are nothing right or wrong. Go with what your gut says. All right.
Okay.
Okay, easy. So are you an early bird or a night owl?
Neither.
So when is your sweet spot? I didn't have that as a question, a category.
I don't like to stay up late. I mean, I like to go to bed at 11 or 12, and then
Uh-huh.
I wake up at like 8 or 9. So I feel like I'm very just
In
standard.
the middle.
Yeah.
I'm efficient by being in the middle.
Yes.
Okay. Favorite study snack?
Goldfish.
Ah, I love goldfish, the salty, cheesy taste.
I love it. My dogs love it.
Oh, there we go. Then we like it all the more. One word to describe your college experience of sentence?
For me, it was where I met friends who felt like family.
I love that. And you know what? That's one thing when I talk to students, I say you may sometimes, or many times, we may forget what happened in the college, in the classrooms,
Hmm.
but we will not forget what happened on the campus with the
I
people we
agree.
met, right?
Definitely.
They have a lot more lasting impact on us than sometimes the
Absolutely.
classes we attended.
Yeah,
I love
definitely.
it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite study spot on campus?
I liked to study at the Panera on Forbes.
It was just noisy enough that it could find your focus, huh?
Right. Like I like the slight like chatter, but it's not, people aren't so loud at Panera, and I could get all the coffee and snacks I needed.
At my beck and call.
Exactly.
Favorite subject in high school?
Chemistry.
I thought that you were going to say that. Biggest motivation during pharmacy school.
Biggest motivation during pharmacy school. I would say just knowing that at the end of it, I was going to be a pharmacist and I would be able to enter my career kind of immediately was a big motivator.
There you go. Absolutely. You had a tangible line of sight for where this is going to take you.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you unwind after a long day?
So I have two dogs and I love them. So I will play with them, I'll lay with them, we'll go outside. I love to we watch like shows together, me, my fiance, and my dogs as a family. So we have our little shows we watch. And then I actually like to cook. I enjoy cooking. And that can be a nice unwinding activity for me.
Absolutely. Furry people around us have a tendency to do that.
They
Then
do.
I have a question, and I think I know the answer to, but what is your all-time favorite show?
Friends.
I
Will
knew
always be
that.
my favorite.
They will always be your
It's just
favorite.
like comfort at this point.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. There's something about that show. And lastly, professor that inspired you or drove you crazy. You don't have to name names, but just something about a professor that was like either too, yeah, he really inspired me, or my God, what was that?
I would say my favorite professor in high school, or teacher in high school, was my AP chemistry teacher. I just felt like the way he taught chemistry, I really resonated with and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, just something about his demeanor. He was very calm, cool, collected, like very, I don't know, there's something very relaxing about the way he taught chemistry, which made a subject that can be intimidating very
Yes.
like not stressful.
And here you are, you use chemistry to find your calling.
Exactly.
Ah, wonderful. How do you look back at your high school self? What part of those 4 years stayed with you? How do you look back at those years?
I enjoyed high school a lot. I feel like in high school I really developed a work ethic.
Uh-huh.
And I learned techniques to study, and um, I feel like it was a great way to learn how to study and like develop a work ethic that I kind of continued throughout college and pharmacy school. Um, but I would say I could have relaxed a little bit more. It's not as serious as it feels like it is in the moment, right? Like
Yeah.
that 80% on that test did not matter. It never mattered, or whatever it is. Like ultimately you're fine. It's not a
Yeah.
huge deal. Like you always
Yeah.
feel like it's the biggest deal in the world. And I mean, I would say that for college, I would say that for pharmacy school. You have these moments where you're like, this is like the worst thing that's ever happened. And it's like, it's not, you're fine. Like,
That is such a beautiful way to look at it, that in the moment, things may drive us up the mountain, but they really
Mhm.
are nothing in the long scheme of things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What a beautiful sentiment to end this conversation with. Thank you all for joining us and gaining insight into the rewarding world of pharmacy. We hope Ria's journey has inspired you to explore new possibilities and take bold steps towards your career dreams. If you have questions or would like us to bring to your guest with specific focus, let us know in the comment section.